So again, I'm Mark Jackson. I'm actually the Vice President with Community Housing Partners and Director of INSERT, as we call it. So New River Center for Energy Research and Training, established about 13 years ago, actually, to provide training for primarily the weatherization program. That's our low-income weatherization program sponsored through the Department of Energy. We actually train a lot of different things other than just weatherization classes, from Building Performance Institute certifications, ResNet, which would be the HERS rater, the Home Energy Rating System, Energy Star, and Earthcraft. We have about 35 expert trainers that we have, about 10 on staff and 25 contract folks. Interestingly enough, some of those contract folks actually went through the CREATES Department of Labor program here in the region, and we hired them on after they became certified. We've actually trained well over the 30,000 folks across the country in over 30 states, including Alaska. Our main trainer and lead trainer, Anthony Cox, actually has visited each one of those states. And we are actually, let's say at the bottom here, one of 12 national weatherization training centers funded through Department of Energy, and they're sprinkled across the United States. These are some of the courses we offer. You see there at the top, we'll talk about a couple of those in just a minute through the CREATES program that we train folks for. So just in the last couple of years with the ARA funding, with CREATES, and with all the weatherization funding, we've actually hit about 16 different states, 493 classes we've delivered to 6,800 plus trainees with over 80,000 actual hours for those trainees. So we've been pretty busy the last couple of years. So with CREATES, one of the things that we really wanted to make sure for the program was we were delivering industry credentials that folks could basically get today and go out tomorrow and use. These were one-day classes, sometimes they were 2- and 3- and 4-day classes, but those were classes you took and credentials you took right out to the workforce. These were just for displaced and incumbent workers. We had a lot of folks coming in. They were just trying to improve their skills for their skill set for their companies. We had displaced workers, folks that were out of work. They're looking, how do I change? I was working for this company, I was let go. I want to become an energy auditor. One of those folks actually is a gentleman named Todd Ewald, who actually came through CREATES, got a BPI certification as a building analyst, wanted to start his own energy auditing company. We then hired him on after he became trained to actually help us with the big demand in the state to do multifamily auditing. So what was great is, as he was starting his business, he was actually improving his skills and his knowledge around actually auditing. So when he walks into a client's house, he kind of really knows what's going on, not just I went through a one-week class and, hey, I'm an energy auditor. So what kind of credentials did we actually deliver through CREATES? The retrofit installer, that's the guy walking around with the caulk gun, the foam canisters, spraying foam, making sure that they're air sealing and insulating, making sure they're blower door testing your house to make sure they find out where all the leaks are in your house. BPI, Building Performance Institute, the building analyst, which a lot of folks use, is kind of the industry recognized energy auditor certification. Green property management, so this is for folks that are not only property managers, but also for maintenance staff folks, on how to actually make sure in their properties they're doing the right things, not just from are they using the right chemicals, but more importantly, are they turning down water heaters? The real simple things that are going to save a lot, when they replace bulbs, they're replacing CFLs, are they actually changing filters out? And that's huge in what we see a lot of times. And then the big one, huge demand for this a couple of years ago, was the EPA's Repair, Renovate, and Paint program. So one-day class required that every single contractor out there had at least one person on their staff that was trained to the standard, and they actually became registered as a firm with the EPA also because of lead contamination. So what was our role? Our role obviously is to train these core competencies, mentor folks in the essential knowledge, skills, and abilities to do these jobs and for these industry credentials, because we want to drive consistency and quality across the region. But more importantly for INSERT, we really want to do that across the country, and that's part of our partnership with the other training centers. So what I did here is I gave a couple of pictures to kind of drive home just the idea of why this is so important. Because I could go to school for 2, 3 years or 4 years and get a degree and a lot of things that will really help me in my field. But with this, it was this one-week class. We want to get people in houses now, energy auditing and performing retrofit measures. So what do you think? Okay, that's not one of our CREATES folks after their training. This was actually part of a national review under weatherization. And that was actually wrapped that way, believe it or not. And it's a great demonstration of how not to do something. Now, a lot of people look at this and they go, I don't understand. Why is this a big deal? And actually, John Arnold and his team took this picture in a multifamily property. And I may get the story a little bit wrong, but what happened was, and this was out in Virginia Beach, correct? And so this company, HVAC company, HVAC company, you go in, you put in heat pumps and everything, you just replace stuff, no big deal, right? Never really been through a building science class, most likely, understand how a house works as a system. They went in, they retrofitted this. Well, originally, the return air was coming from somewhere else, okay? From underneath. What happened was they installed this heat pump in here, and so they have the return air that's supposed to go into the system and go out into the supply registers in the rooms and everything. Problem was that return right there, when you close this door, the louvers were so tight and so much paint was on them, it was starving the system of air. So when the tenants were saying, we're not getting any heat or cooling, well, no wonder. So if this HVAC company only understood how a house, or an apartment in this case, is supposed to work as a system, I got 5 minutes? No, I got 7. They would understand how crucial it would be to now actually cut a hole in this door and put another grill here so that system could actually breathe. Kim's going to make me go faster. Any problems here? No. This was a nice woman's house and everything, and you can see this right here. Well, that right there is a fan coming from the bathroom, and why is all this stuff brown and black right here? No, it's never connected. It's actually acting as an air filter for the air coming right out of here, never making it up the pipe and out the roof line. So it's just filtering all that air as it's going into the attic space. Never, ever, ever connected. So you can imagine your bathroom. What happens? What do you have in your bathroom? Nice, warm, moist air, right? What happens in the wintertime when all that's going up into your attic if it's not properly ventilated? Potential for mold, right? Potential for ice damming happening on your roof. Big potential problems. I'm going to skip this one. We'll get, again, another one right here. Filtering all that nice air. You can tell it was never, ever connected. This is actually even too large for this. It's supposed to actually, there's a little coupler that goes on here, and then you have to tape it and seal it. Well, again, we're just venting it straight in. We didn't even try to connect it to go outside the attic space. And these important things are what we taught our energy auditors when they're going into a house. Don't just walk around, oh yeah, I think you need some new windows. I think you need a new door. That's not what doing energy auditing is all about. It's about finding out where you're really losing your energy. And a lot of that's going through air leaks and duct sealing. Now, for folks who are not in HVAC, hot air goes up or down? It goes up, right? Understand this is a combustion appliance. So it's a gas or hot water or gas or an oil furnace. And what's happening is the vent pipe goes this way. Oh, let's go down and then up. Well, gas doesn't, hot gases don't go down. Not a really great way to vent out this heating system. Sometimes you find they're not even connected. So you can imagine, again, potential carbon monoxide, and this is inside of a living space. This is a clause inside the living space. We're just pumping potential carbon monoxide right out into the living space. Not even connected. Again, this is over a range, a combustion range, where carbon monoxide is just pumping into the cabinet and right on out through the cabinet doors. So these kind of things we look at. Anyone have any idea what this is? It is a melted, it's actually, yeah, it's a hot water valve. Flame rollout. Not enough air, okay? So what's happening is we're getting all this flame rolling out. It needs to be cleaned and tuned. We need more combustion air for this. So these are the things that these auditors find out. This is my second to last picture. Do you think that's real? Yeah. It is. You know the little valve on the side? It's that temperature and pressure valve, on the side of your hot water heater. Well, some people, you're at home, you're like, oh my God, it leaks and everything. Let's stick something up in there and let's plug it so it stops leaking. It's there for a reason. Well, that's what happened in this situation, and it blew. I'm hoping no one was standing next to it. So we do all these things for health, safety, durability, because we don't want these things to happen. Okay, and it does from time to time happen, obviously. So the last bit is actually, we're going to watch again the reason why training folks is so important.
A Tale of Weatherization. This is the story of Grandma's house. Grandma's house works. It isn't a fancy house, and it may not be a comfortable house for Grandma. But as far as building science goes, it works. At Grandma's house, the dry outside air is constantly moving through it, keeping moisture and odors from building up inside. And Grandma keeps a pot of water on the stove just to keep the humidity level up. And Grandma lives many years content in her little house without any problems. But Grandma is getting older, and she is getting tired of hauling all that wood. And right as she is thinking about how a change may be needed, Red comes to visit her Grandma. And as all young'uns do, she knows exactly what Grandma needs. Grandma needs insulation. Red makes her case, shows her the brochure, and Grandma calls Big Mike. Big Mike does exactly as he is asked and insulates the attic so Grandma can save money and use less wood. And Grandma is very happy. Until Grandma notices a water stain on the ceiling. Oh dear, Grandma can't catch a break. Now the roof's leaking. So Grandma calls Big Mike. And Big Mike sees the problem right away. When he added the insulation, now the roof is cooler because the heat is staying in the house. But the bad news is, the moisture from inside the house now condenses and freezes on the underside of the roof when it didn't used to. But no worries. Big Mike knows exactly what to do. This house just needs to be air sealed to stop the house moisture from getting up to the attic. Then all Grandma's problems will be solved. If only he'd thought of that earlier. Now he has to remove all that insulation he just put in, air seal the attic, and replace the insulation. But Grandma's problems aren't solved. One day, Grandma notices something strange. Grandma couldn't see when Red was coming to visit anymore. Her windows had too much condensation. And now the Grandma's house is so humid, there are little spots on her wall. At first, she didn't notice. But before long, those little spots have turned into big spots all over her walls. And by now, she is calling Big Mike demanding, "What have you done?" Well, Big Mike realizes the mold is growing because the walls are wet from condensation. No problem. We'll warm up the walls by putting in some insulation. And the excess moisture? Now that Grandma's house has been air sealed and insulated, she doesn't need that pot. But to be extra safe, Big Mike has one more idea for Grandma. We'll add some ventilation to Grandma's house, and Grandma, just to be safe, runs that fan a lot. But poor Grandma, she notices when she runs the fan something is wrong with her stove, and Grandma learns very quickly the big fan always wins. So once again, Grandma calls Big Mike. And once again, Big Mike came back. Big Mike realized the error of his ways. With all the insulating and air sealing, we were saving Grandma a lot on her energy costs. But in addition to the condensation and mold, now her stove is backdrafting. With that big fan running, the stove doesn't draft properly. There's just not enough air. So Big Mike installs an outside air feed directly to the stove and installs makeup air for the exhaust fan. Grandma and Red lived happily ever after. And Big Mike? He realized the house has to work as a system, got the necessary training, and repainted the van. The end.
Again, on behalf of Dr. Lewis, who has really appreciated the partnership that Creates has brought to New River Community College, and Dan Lookadoo is in North Carolina, so they asked me to come and give a little short presentation on what the Creates grant and other initiatives that we have done, the renewable energy initiatives that we have at New River Community College. So I'm going to be brief. This is what we started with. This was before Creates. This was our small energy park. We have a small wind turbine that's still there today. The trainers that are out, this is a little tilt lean-to roof where our PV trackers, our solar hot water heater sits, and the students, this is what we used to have before Creates. And this is what the students would work on. They would disassemble and reassemble, and you can actually see, I don't know if this has a pointer or not, but it's really innovative. This piece of technology right here is actually senses the sun itself using temperature, and unlike the big PV trackers you're going to see, as the sun moves, this tracker moves by itself, so it's very innovative and very interesting. Again, you'll just see this is in our PV class that we have, ELE 177. The students go out and actually do this. They're not just theory-based. The students will go out and again, work through the whole system. And this is what we have today. In a partnership with New River Community College and Creates. You see PV trackers, to our knowledge, some of the only in the area. These systems are large. If you wanted to know the size, and you'll see somebody standing by them in a minute, about as long, almost as long as this room, as tall as this room. That's how large these systems are. They are programmed. They don't automatically sense the sun, but they track and they move with the sun. The reason they're in that up position is if the wind does get above 50 miles an hour, it's a huge liability. This could just be picked up right off the foundation and put somewhere else. So this is the safety position that they'll go to. In the background you'll see, and it's sort of hard to tell, it's a 90-foot wind turbine. Again, when the installers did it, to their knowledge, the only one like this on the entire East Coast. They sell this wind turbine, but there's a hydraulic cylinder on this wind turbine that allows us, instead of sending students up the pole, which I don't think Dr. Lewis would allow us to do that, we actually lower, with the hydraulic cylinder, we actually lower this wind turbine twice a year, and the students again are provided with live hands-on training. And then again, just more shots at night with the PV trackers going into their safety position. Along with what you've seen outside with the Creates grant and partnerships, these are our actual trainers inside. This is one of the wind trainers that the students are working on in our course. Again, same trainer. And then back outside. This was actually on the install when it was going in. This was the company putting in the wind turbine, Shenandoah Tower. It was really interesting to go out and see this go up as we put it in and installed it. A huge crane had to come and install this, and again, really neat engineering process. This is right before it's going up, and you can see the huge hydraulic cylinder over here to your left, gentleman standing right in front of it, that again will raise the 90-foot wind turbine up and down for students to work on the system. And that was the first time it was going up. We got a shot of that, and you can see the turbine up high there. Again, we were very excited this day. Not only do we have our turbines and our PV trackers, we have a geothermal system. This was a representation. That's not exactly how it looks, obviously. It's in the ground. So this is what we use. We can't really show people without digging it up, but there is a geothermal. These are trenches that we dug. We didn't drill wells with this system, but it's a geothermal system. And not only do all these systems are there for training, but they're also grid tied to our buildings. So this is providing heating and cooling while the students are also working on the systems. This is one of the inside units, you might say, for anybody that's HVAC. You know, these are the air handlers that are inside from the geothermal system that's actually in the lab. This is in our instrumentation and control automation lab. And it is providing, as of right now, all the heating and cooling in that lab itself is coming from that geothermal system. The backup system that's there is not having to provide any heating or cooling. And again, the students do work on these systems, so it provides a dual purpose. This is in our HVAC lab. There are 3 air handlers in 3 labs that are tied to the geothermal system that's outside on our campus. As we said, students, this is not just something we're going to stick out in the field and leave there. These are our students while they're out. Actually, when we did the initial install, we involved the students. They were part of the process. Obviously, there were pieces that they could not do. So they were out during this process, and the lead engineer, I don't want to hit this, the gentleman right here from James River, he's also instructing the students, and some of y'all know Keith McAllister. You can sort of see him in the center. We involved the students when we were doing these installs. And here again is just some nice shots of the wind turbine itself. One that we use, this goes on the catalog of a lot of the publications that we use. We have a New River sign, and you can see the two PV trackers and our turbines. There's a 45-foot wind turbine that goes up and down with a gin pole, just a apparatus, more of a mechanical apparatus than our large 90-footer. So what is all this? There's two, the big ones you saw, the two 12.5 kW PV trackers. There's one 90-foot 5 kW wind turbine. There's one 45-foot 2.4 kW wind turbine, and they are all grid tied to Edwards Hall. So again, not only are they training purposes, but they're actually producing power. And you may be wondering how much. At optimum performance, it's producing 10% of the energy that Edwards Hall is consuming. And that's the building where we're housed. More renewable energy, the geothermal system that you saw pictures of consists of a 6-ton, a 3-ton, and a 2-ton system that serves for training and energy cost reduction. There's a distributive control system that's going in. It's a Delta V system. Delta V, for those of y'all that are out in the industry, is probably the leading in the industry in control automation. So the students, this was funded in part with the CREATES grant. So our students are training on the exact same systems that are out in the industry. And as you saw pictures with the wind and solar trainers, and it does come with the computers and the software that attached with them. What is NRCC's commitment to this? As Dr. Lewis looked into this initiative, NRCC, not only with the CREATES grant, but NRCC in part has funded these initiatives also with the PV trackers, with the solar hot water heater, the current small PV array that you saw. Eventually, and we're working on this, as you try to get IT and control automation talking together, and for you all that have worked out in the industry, those are two totally separate markets. But eventually, whatever power that's being produced by all these systems, you'll be able to click on New River Community College's website and see live data, live within about 5 minutes, of what power is being produced by each one of these different pieces of equipment. Again, in the spring, live data will be available, and this program has been developed and will be sustained. Part of the grant, there's sustainability pieces. These programs have been implemented in one of our major degree programs, and those of y'all that are in community college, you know that's not an easy task. So, and we're developing some new courses in energy management is in the design phase. So what programs are we talking about? Again, the electronics technology degree, we have 2 career study certificates in alternative energy, and then the 3 courses I listed, these are the actual, what you might call our alternative or renewable energy courses that we provide at New River Community College.
In case you guys in the room don't know, the vision behind the CREATES grant was, let's not reinvent the wheel. New River had some initiatives, Wytheville had initiatives, and our CERT had initiatives. So the whole vision behind the whole grant was, let's do what we currently do already better. So New River, up on the top of mountains, had the ability to experience big wind where we in the fishbowl of Roanoke did not. So what you'll see in our presentation is at Virginia Western, we had the mechatronics program, which focused on automation and controls. So we kind of expanded the mechatronics program. Wytheville's going to speak about their retrofitting residential homes, and New River, of course, already on the big wind and the geothermal technology. So when we first received this grant, I was extremely excited. Kim remembers that day, how red-faced I was, I believe, and with excitement. But I did a lot of research, and we didn't call our program renewable energy or alternative energy because that's kind of the flavor of the month. we called our program Energy Management for a reason, because we don't focus just on alternatives or renewables, but also how are we going to control the energy that's been generated conventionally for many years. So the first question was, what do the students need to know? And as opposed to sitting in my four walls and pretending that I knew everything somebody needed to know about energy management systems, what we did at Virginia Western was focus on who are the key players in the region that really do this currently. So you'll see Adam Cohen, the president of Structure Design Build. We know he's been to Germany and is trained in the passive house design and designed and built the Seed Center in Franklin County, where it's the most efficient public building in the country there in Franklin County. John Garland, the president of Spectrum Design, of course, lead PE and an AP certified as well. Stan Brakel from Brakel Construction, one of our students, Nader Rasul, out of the mechatronics program, now works for Stan Brakel, and he's now their energy management in training. Ken Cronin from Roanoke City, director of services and sustainability. Mark Sloan works for Train, and Mark was given a small stipend by a company to help that company invest money in their energy usage, and they received a return on investment threefold within the first 6 months. So I tried to pick the players that really knew what they were doing out in industry. Mike Newsome is actually from the Galax area. He is doing some consulting work on how they're sending data over the same power lines that you receive energy on. So they're sending the data of what energy you use down the same power lines. Patrick Murdoch from Train. Of course, now not a candidate student, but a PhD doctorate student, Togo Durek, who will help me speak as well. Dr. Reichardt in the room. Scott Johnson from Tecton Products, and ADM Micro's Mike Alexander. So we put together 4 tiers. The first tier is introduction. The whole idea here is to get them introduced to the concepts of energy management. And there I wanted to speak about, there's basically non-credit, real quick, 1 semester training, basic understanding of electricity, introduction to alternative energy, and then let's not let the smoke out or cook somebody, so they need to be safe while they're doing that with industrial safety. The second tier is the technician level training. And let me first say that New River had some initiatives going on. Whitfield had a retrofit. We at Virginia Western did not have any initiatives, so the CREATES grant was able to fully fund and develop this 4-tier training approach, which we hope will expand and grow over the next several years. The second tier of the training involves the exact same part of the first tier. So they have some investment already leveraged. If they finish tier 1, those first 3 classes can go right into tier 2. We add to that introduction to construction, blueprint reading and building code, and of course, conventional and alternative energy applications. Tier 3 would be a certified installer by NAPCEP. Both the instructors at New River Community College and Virginia Western Community College visited NC State for a summer. Tolga received his PV certification through NAPCEP. I received the solar thermal, and I believe Keith and Monty did the same thing, just kind of in reverse order. So in Tier 3, we want them to become a certified installer. So we build off the basics, and then of course the code, but they needed some more technical math. Mechanisms, gears, sprockets, pulley shafts to understand how wind turbines operate. And then they would focus on a concentration. So the students could focus on PV, and then they would take electrical power and controls along with the PV course, and this is where they would receive their NAPCEP entry-level PV certification. They could do wind energy, again, the same prerequisite of electrical power and controls and focusing on wind as a concentration. And then solar and geothermal, they have to understand pumps and pipes and auxiliary systems. This is the prerequisite class for this new course that we developed, solar thermal and passive technology. So that's the Tier 3. Tier 4, and I'm not going to bore you guys with the purpose of each program, but we kind of talk about it through the discussion of the classes. So we developed a brand new associate degree program as a specialization under technical studies. So all 4 tiers were developed under this grant. It's been a very intensive 2-year process to get all this curriculum developed and approved. But the key was getting the people from industry to guide and shape what we did. So here you see Gen Ed. This is what every single associate degree in the state of Virginia has to have as a core minimum. And then the particular classes. Now, I just want to focus on a few. There's 2 classes here, Air 281 and Air 282, Energy Management 1 and Energy Management 2. Our students have gone out to industry and done energy audits for companies like Orvis, Carillion Healthcare Systems, which we know is the largest employer in the Roanoke region. So our students at Virginia Western have gone out there and been invited in from industry to help conduct these energy audits. And it's really helped them because they've been able to present this back to the companies. And I don't have enough time to really give you guys all of their presentations, but it's pretty exciting to see what they've learned. They take drafting, of course, the same courses in some of these career studies. They need to understand the National Electric Code, this electrical control systems. And the key here is a coordinated internship. So the students are going to graduate with an associate degree. That's something that our advisory committee pretty much said, this is what we want. Career studies are wonderful, but we want somebody who has proven that they are able to be trained and they can retain this information. So that's why the key was we needed to get together an associate degree that said not only are the students knowledgeable, but do I have to tell them the same thing day after day? Are they well-rounded individuals? I totally agree with Mark, and as well, New River Community College. Training doesn't just happen theoretically. It's a very hands-on process, and especially at Virginia Western. We're fortunate through the CREATES program to have invested about $400,000 in equipment that we train on. Since we only had $400,000 with no leveraged investment in the program, we bought training systems in which we could teach 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So this system has a PV panel on the top, a wind turbine on the side, and so the students not only learn the theory of what type of energy do I get from a PV system or a wind turbine, but how do I control that? And then how do I integrate the two together? And what if my system is overcharged? What do I do with that system? What do I do with that extra energy? And that's taught here on this trainer. And then this is the solar thermal trainer. This is a traditional type of solar thermal collector. We also have the evacuated tube type of solar thermal collector. In the Introduction to Construction class, the students, Tolga had the idea of there's a kit to build a dorm room. So I'm struggling with, what type of projects can we do in which the students get hands-on training doing construction? So the first idea was let's build some dorm rooms, and then I'm not going to say anything more about that. I'll let Tolga speak about what we did. The next year we built storage, like little storage sheds that we gave to a local elementary school. So part of that Introduction to Construction class, the local elementary school needed a place to store all of their landscaping utensils and rakes and things. So we did that. And then this year they did wall sections. So we're trying to incorporate more and more hands-on learning.
Oak Flame was an event designed to teach students the importance of fire safety codes and to give engineers and building managers useful data on how fires spread in a dorm room. 2 identical dorm rooms were constructed by students at Virginia Western Community College in partnership with the Myers-Lawson School of Construction. Each room was set on fire using a device that simulated a curling iron.
Our primary purpose of the project was to really raise fire safety awareness on campus and show our residents the combustion process, if you will, and how things can get out of hand. And we maintained 2 identical rooms, even the furniture, bedding, everything that was in there. It was arranged in a way to kind of show why there are certain standards that we try to uphold on campus and why they're significant.
I thought it was pretty crazy. I live in Oak Lane, and so just seeing that could have been my room, it's so small, and the fire happened so quickly, and under 4 minutes, everything in the entire room was destroyed.
It's about the 4-minute mark. Keep in mind that our response is a little.
One of the main purposes of the event was to show the drastic difference between a sprinklered room and a non-sprinklered room.
The fire models have showed us that we have up to 2200 degrees Fahrenheit in the not sprinkled room. On the sprinkled room, we only maintained as high as 600 Fahrenheit. And you can see the amount of damage kind of really shows the combustion process and how effective sprinkler systems are.
Researchers are hopeful that students take the lessons of oak flame to heart and furnish their residence hall rooms with care.
The last thing that I'll show you is we are partnered with Camp Roanoke now. So part of Camp Roanoke is middle school education. So we bought 4 wind turbines and 4 PV panels. So our students assembled this wind turbine. It's not a huge wind turbine, but what this wind turbine will do was basically power the lighting and some of the electricity in this pavilion at Camp Roanoke. So our hope is that the kids in the Roanoke Valley, as they go through Camp Roanoke year after year, and they see examples of PV panels and wind turbines, and they're used, and they can see them. You know, I saw this wind turbine on a sailboat when we were down in Williamsburg powering some electricity on this little boat. Now it's going to power the pavilion. So the whole idea is, I totally agree with Mark, we need our education to be hands-on education. So that's what we did at Virginia Western.
Rather than, this will be the least sophisticated presentation as far as technology goes here. Just have a couple of images that I want to kind of display as I talk about in generalities, kind of where we are. And Jackie reminded me a year ago early in Creates, I think Freudian called my BlackBerry an elderberry. So because I manage several grants here and I need a few reference points, I'll wave this around a little bit as we talk here today too. So to piggyback kind of what on Dan said, each community college does have kind of a unique approach to the things we were doing. Traditionally, what we've been working toward for the last 6 years was a construction technology diploma program that was really geared toward addressing a shortage of skilled labor construction workers in the construction trades. And when we had the opportunity to partner with all you good folks who, quite honestly, we will miss greatly as this thing evolves here. It's been a wonderful working relationship without a doubt, and have enjoyed the interaction with each of you. Our vision was just to kind of wrap this green shell or green bubble around what we were already doing. And to arrive at that in a number of ways, what we wanted to try to do was look at our 4 programs that we were working toward already: alternative energy, HVAC, electrical, and carpentry, and see what we could do to those programs, those 4 career pathways, to green them. And the part of the idea was we're working with tradesmen and contractors, and how do we arrive at the very least, educating them to the alternative energies and how that incorporates into existing construction models that we do. We wanted contractors, whether they were just entry-level, Class C, home improvement endorsed contractors going out, to be able to have a conversation with a homeowner about, well, how does this solar PV thing work, and how might I do this, or how can I lower my energy cost here? So we developed a track around alternative energy that focuses primarily on solar PV, but tried to integrate those courses as electives within all 4 career pathways. That included heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, carpentry, electrical, and of course the alternative energy was a standalone. One of the direct outcomes of the Creates grant was a solar installer credential in a career studies certificate. And our alternative program, as you can see, is linked to NABCEP. We're a certified training site. Our faculty, including Rusty Warren, who's here with us today, are actually certified, have done the NABCEP North Carolina Solar as well. And just as an add-on, one of the good outcomes of this is the Creates is actually a Creates trailer, but we were able to leverage other grants funds, which is a best practice from this as well, to do the marketing pieces, and that's really what this is a result of. This image is today. And LabVolt was even happy to throw us a few $1,000s if we put the LabVolt label on there. And so rather than just label it up a whole lot, we thought those 2 are the primary focus here. The marketing piece is actually centered around alternative because that's kind of the sexy thing to do right now. So that draws enrollment into the other paths as well. So we our primary goal in this is to basically provide some entry-level training for contractors, potential tradesmen and HVACA, and just kind of general construction workers. We're trying to change our marketing around too to get away from this helper word. Even though when you go into ONET and you say, we've got a carpentry helper and an electrician helper and all those kinds of things, Me as a parent, I have a hard time with throwing down tuition to train my son to be a helper at this point. So I would like for him to, to at least be a technician of some kind. Even as a technician's assistant, that would be better for me. So the program is designed around a 2-year diploma track, and in either of the 4 tracks that we have here, basically, primarily the program was initially designed to meet the educational eligibility requirement for tradesmen who want to be electricians and HVAC technicians. So if you're familiar with Board for Contractor regulations, there is some educational and experience requirement regardless if you're seeking a tradesman licensure. If you have the luxury of working 10 years in the trade and somebody will verify that for you, you can sit for the journeyman electrician's exam. But the fastest way to get there without a doubt is a 2-year degree program coupled with 2 years of on-the-job experience. Now we don't pretend to say that our graduates will come out as electricians and HVAC licensed journeymen, but they will have satisfied the educational eligibility requirement in those trades. And that, again, that's just for HVAC and electrical. Those are the 2 journeyman tracks that we have. As for contractors and alternative eds, we've worked around building credentials, again, for entry-level workers and technicians that make them more employable, just like with Insert as far as the lead renovator training. I mean, that credential instantly makes that person more employable. So within our program tracks, we've added a number of credentials. Rusty Warren here is one of our OSHA 1030 instructors and credentialed instructors. We've added that OSHA 10. And that's something that's evolved since Creates. We started with the OSHA 10 construction credential and have expanded that beginning this fall, which is an OSHA 1030. 1020 or 1030? 1030. It's 10 plus 20 for 30, and is the credential there. Within the HVAC curriculum, we're doing the universal refrigerant recovery, and that's kind of a green thing with EPA 603, 608. And most recently, we're doing the R410A safety class within those curriculums. And those are things that have been done, some of those pieces have been done at established community colleges for a number of years. But again, thanks to this relationship with Creates, and they're new to us, and they've given us an opportunity to put some credentials in those students' hands that obviously make them more employable. Also within the alternative energy tract, we will test actually in June 14 candidates out of our approved course through NABCEP. And we actually did it through a credit course associating the training with existing credit course. But we'll have 14 candidates that will sit for the NABCEP entry-level PV, and they'd like for you, I think, not to call it credential, but training completion. So we've got that in play, really. Our long-term goal, obviously, is to focus on the sustainability of the program, and our advisory committee and our faculty now is struggling with curriculum and recruiting students into a curriculum that has traditionally up to this point been dislocated workers. And we're seeing that because of the area that we're in that traditionally has been dislocated workers, and we're moving our target basically more toward traditional recent high school graduate programs. That sustainability is supported a great deal by the fact that we have a very successful dual credit enrollment program at Carroll County High School, and that kind of creates a feeder school there. That's something we'd like to expand, obviously, to maintain the sustainability of the program. One of our greatest challenges I think we have up ahead is linking our best students, particularly who are tradesman licensure candidates, linking them to some kinds of meaningful work-based learning or work experience that'll meet the experience eligibility requirements for licensure. Without a doubt, that's the biggest challenge, for putting together tradesman candidates that have that full package. And we do a pretty good job right now in doing carpentry and framing and training people that have basic construction understandings. Certainly, the majority of our group will leave Wytheville Community College, or a significant number will leave with a Class C contractor's license with something like a home improvement contractor endorsement or something like that. Basically an entry level or gateway type of credential to take them out. Now why do we do that? Because as Marty and folks in WIA will tell you, we had an employment problem down in our area. We had people we needed to place. And there is a significant entrepreneurial component to our program. And that's, we, like many of those community colleges, offer the basic contract business licensing course required by the Virginia Department of Virginia Board for Contractors. So that is a significant component. There is an entrepreneurial piece that if it's part of the curriculum, that at least if it is not evident, if students are not inclined to become entrepreneurial and self-employed and become contractors themselves, gives them some appreciation for the scope of work that working for somebody else actually involves. I want to close just kind of with a best practice here, and this is something we that kind of grew out of Creates as well, and was really a success story for us. It's helped our programs across the board. Because of the folks, and as Dan pointed out, and the folks that you select in your advisory capacities really is important to the success of your program. And for us, we've been very fortunate to have an involved building official network. And and I kind of humorously talk about our building official in Wythe County. If we need to have an OSHA 1030 class, he can create an OSHA 1030 class for us. It's not a problem. So it helps on both sides, particularly with this lead renovator thing we did with Insert. It helps them on the compliance side, and it helps obviously contractors on the likewise on the compliance side as well. So certainly one of the long-standing and sustainability outcomes of our participation has been strengthening this advisory capacity with the building official, and obviously within the Insert and the community college networks, the WIA networks we've worked with.